I want to talk about NVIDIA, though. NVIDIA pulling back about 0.5% in the pre-market. Why are we seeing the rest of the chip names move higher? I mean, at least somewhat higher. ARM was just kind of fractionally higher, but NVIDIA pulled back a whole 0.5%.
Yeah, the one thing that last night's calls kind of reinforce or kind of elevate the ASIC versus GPU debate, and that's kind of been lingering over the better part of the past year. And essentially, AVGO kind of can help the hyperscalers and companies like OpenAI develop their own chips with more custom solutions, i.e., they're also cheaper alternatives to NVIDIA. So it's no secret. We know, I think FT, as you said earlier, FT Bloomberg reporting that OpenAI is this sort of mystery customer, and these big companies are spending billions of dollars. They want the cheapest alternative they can possibly find. So that's sort of the headwind, I think, in the near term for NVIDIA. It's clearly still the #1 proxy for the AI trade and the tech revolution. But again, this is where Broadcom potentially, in my view, has greater upside potential as more large hyperscalers shift to their own chips, again, just to kind of lower their costs as much as they can.
Is this Broadcom report, is it a read on anything, or do you think investors will see it as a read on something? Like, does this continue to put money in chip infrastructure and AI infrastructure after we had some questions, after the MIT report, after Sam Altman himself said it might be a bubble, and then obviously reports are that OpenAI is making this buy? Does it move money away from software? I mean, what's the takeaway from all this? Or is there any? Or is this a kind of an outlier? You said it was the best earnings call. Was this just really a great sales pitch by CEO Hock Tan?
I mean, yeah, obviously he's one of the best salesmen on the street, and rightfully so. And don't also forget, we also got great visibility from him on fiscal year 26, where he sees AI revenues being materially above the prior year as well. So I mean, he hit all the notes, right? And more importantly, within the AI trade, the trade's been in digestion mode for the better part of the past 4 or 5 weeks, rightfully so. The Altman commentary, MIT study, look at NVIDIA's T+1, T+2 reactions. Dell, Marvell just last Friday got hammered, post their calls.
But Joel, tell us where the puck's going, though. Where does the puck go after this?
We've seen the shift into software. Better part of the back half of August, we saw kind of money kind of trickle back into software. That's been unwinding, over the better part of the past week as well. Landmines have kind of been coming up here and there. Look at Salesforce, T+1 reaction this week. So I think this print last night from Broadcom will just kind of reinvigorate this AI trade. And I think heading into Q4, funds don't want to be underweight this theme and be forced to chase it in a lower liquidity backdrop.
I get it. Broadcom is going to be a story surging on the back of its latest earnings and outlook, and this on this mystery $10 billion AI customer. Some reports, Jim, say it is OpenAI, and I guess would be a run at trying to rely less on NVIDIA.
Yeah, look, I don't want to be contrarian about too many things after a big win last night, but I would say that the reason I even knew about OpenAI was that Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, told me that they were the first company to really understand what Jensen had. And their partnership dates back the longest of any one of these hyperscalers. So I know I read this stuff and it says, okay, well, this is a threat, an existential threat to NVIDIA, and NVIDIA stock is down. And then I read Ben Reitzes, who's been the most right about this, particularly with Hock, with the CEO of Broadcom. He says, no time to hit the panic button. There's so much business. There is a huge amount of business. And my question would be, are we if you go back over what happened with the decline in Salesforce the other day, I mean, a lot of that is the recognition that we're going to have a lot of non-real workers. We're going to have these bogus workers, and they're taking real workers' jobs. And that is happening much faster than we realize, meaning that you have agentics, and the agentics are here. And if you're going to have agentics, you need more and more power.
Although, was it Nikesh with you last night who said that the enterprise might be a little bit nervous about agentics?
Well, it is true that they're very easy to program the way you want them to.
Right.
They can be hacked. And people are pretending that they can't be hacked, and instead they can be runaway freight trains. Nikesh Arora is, I think, the guy who's thought more about this.
Well, that's his business.
Yes,
right?
and George Kurtz of CrowdStrike, too. And they recognize that these things are just kind of bots that you can program the way you want them. And that there's whole countries that want to crash the bots.
Sure.
Our bots. I mean, by the way, North Korea.
Well, there were some of the reports yesterday about Chinese attempts to hack over many years in this country.
Yeah, and it's just all real. And one thing that we're not hearing about the broad hacks of retailers anymore, or anything like that. But it's just, Nikesh said, listen, don't be a nerd. It happens every day. But there is, I think that there's a sense that this whole idea of the safety of of your you bring in guys like Palo Alto, bring in guys CrowdStrike, and we're fine. I mean, I think that there's still so many places that are not even taking it seriously, even at this moment. And it's just the government's just now getting better at it.
Right. Hock Tan did talk about the growth outlook for 26, which got reflected in the guidance. Take a listen to this.
We're seeing the growth rate accelerate as opposed to just remain steady at that 50-60%. We are expecting and seeing 2026 to accelerate more than the growth rate we see in 25.
So that's coming off of AI growth of in the mid-60s, Jim.
Yeah. Hock Tan, I've known him for a long time. He's not given to any superlatives and no hyperbole. The numbers that he is talking about indicate that we are in a gold rush that you thought was weird. We thought we were at 1849. We're like maybe 1847, about to go to 4. This is an incredible man who has put together an amazing company. But the tentacles are bigger than this. It's not just, it's also VMware's really hitting storms from networking. But there's just an incredible demand. We're right at the cusp of reasoning. And you need high-performance computers to reason. When I say reason, it means that that's the beginning of not prompting. Right now, it's a prompt economy. You know, like, well, tell me how many times,
yes.
How many hammers did Home Depot sell last week versus Lowe's? Next, it's going to be like, how many hammers should I sell? And using the numbers that you have. And the numbers will be much better than anything we can calculate.
Right.
But it also is going to be like, it's angels on the head of a pin. I mean, you're going to see things out of reasoning AI that I think are going to make it so it's not going to be a threat. It's just going to be very exciting.
And to tie it back to the jobs discussion we just had, what is the role of a mid-level executive whose job right now is to help run a business unit and plan and purchase?
That's who you got to worry about. That's who you don't. They won't do as good a job as the machines, because the machines can handle. Well, look at what Arvind Krishna told me yesterday from IBM. 36 billion pieces of data to do your fantasy football. And that's how they could, when you pick a guy and the next guy shows up, that's 36 billion. We can't do that. Humans can't do anything versus what these machines can do. I just feel like, a year from now, we're going to be sitting here and we're going to say, during the commercial, you'll like say to me, Jim,
right.
What do you think is going to, what can happen in the industry of travel? And it will have a better answer than all the people at the labor. Oh, I don't want to pick on the labor.
Don't be careful.
It will have better answers than we can come up with.
Jim? Shares of Broadcom surging today after strong earnings and disclosing a new mystery customer with $10 billion in orders. Christina Partsinevelos has the details in today's Tech Check segment. Christina.
Sarah, that $10 billion order could shatter NVIDIA's AI dominance, and OpenAI appears to be that mystery customer behind it. Broadcom CEO Hock Tan revealed yesterday on the call that they secured, like you said, $10 billion in orders from a, quote, fourth customer for custom AI chips with shipments beginning in 2026. JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley analysts, as well as the Financial Times, believe this is OpenAI joining Google, Meta, and ByteDance as Broadcom's latest mega customer. The deal, though, really underscores a shift in AI compute. By betting on Broadcom custom chips over NVIDIA's powerful but pricey GPUs, OpenAI is making its clearest break yet from NVIDIA's ecosystem. And this after using only chips from NVIDIA and AMD to power its AI models over the last little while. The contradiction, though, is stark. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang has been, let's call it dismissive of custom chip threats. At NVIDIA's last tech conference, GTC, in March, CEO Jensen Huang said, quote, a lot of ASICs get canceled. ASICs are the custom chips, and he believes most custom chip projects won't do much because, quote, the ASIC still has to be better than the best, implying that GPUs are the best. Yet NVIDIA has quietly established its own custom chip division, this according to the Commercial Times, recruiting talent from Taiwan's chip firms. The company appears to be taking the competitive threat seriously, despite Jensen Huang's public dismissals. Broadcom expects the total addressable AI chip market to hit about $60 to $90 billion by 2027, with OpenAI's $10 billion order representing massive validation of this custom chip model. Jensen's dismissive comments about canceled projects may prove wrong, as this deal could mark the beginning of dare I say, at the end of NVIDIA's monopoly pricing power. OpenAI's massive bet on Broadcom signals a new phase, definitely, in the AI infrastructure competition. Carl?
Yeah, we mentioned earlier with Jim the Goldman note today on the AI trade, thanks KP, about whether or not you have more winners and losers in this new phase of the AI trade, whether or not NVIDIA trades with all of AI or maybe against the rest of the AI
Well, we're
trade.
saying that today,
Yeah,
Broadcom
exactly.
versus NVIDIA,
Yeah.
NVIDIA lower. And that's a little bit of a rethink from NVIDIA dominance.
Link, I'm going to come over to you. I had a Wedbush analyst on my show earlier today. He said best earnings call of this entire quarter. He said Hock-Tan was basically one of the best salespeople on Wall Street. Do you agree? Is this more of a sales pitch than a real fundamental reason for this stock to be hitting a record high and up 9% right now?
If you know Hock-Tan, he's not a sales guy at all. He delivers. He's excellent at doing M&A. And this company has really transformed. It's not just AI, which was obviously the bright spot, growing 63% year over year, but it's also software that where they're growing, and that was basically better than expected. That's VMware. That's the acquisition that nobody liked, that he has actually transformed for his company, and that's a big reason in my mind why they have industry high gross margins. And gross margins were up 99 basis points year over year to 78.5%. That is unheard of. And so I think, yeah, the reason the stock is up is because they did announce this new fourth customer. I think there's another customer coming next year, and they could get to $100 billion in AI revenue by 2027. And that is up substantially from just 2 years ago when it was like 10 to 30 billion. So Hock-Tan staying, I think, is absolutely critical for this company to deliver and to execute and to do more M&A, but to continue to grow above expectations. And it's just not as owned as NVIDIA. There's nothing wrong with NVIDIA. I don't own it because everybody owns it. And people do, and Broadcom's getting more popular, but I do think there's more upside to the numbers.
By the way, you missed your chance to say mystery customer. This is like everybody gets to say mystery customer today, Link. You didn't do it. Kevin, I want to come over to you. You also own Broadcom. By the way, can we show like a 24-hour chart? Because a lot of analysts came out with quick reaction notes to the quarter. And it was a good quarter overall. But the stock, it really seemed to kind of move higher after that news came out about the quote-unquote mystery customer. Reports are it's OpenAI. I want to get your take on the quarter and the idea of this customer coming in and buying $10 billion of chips. What does that mean for this company?
I mean, Stephanie hit all the high points of the earnings report, which were excellent. This is what we were expecting to see from NVIDIA, and to a large extent we did. But to your point, Frank, it was the post-game presser. It was the guidance that really took this stock up in the aftermarkets, and it held today through trading even when the rest of the market's rolling over. So I think it's really compelling that there is a competitor to NVIDIA and one that has won a large contract. Probably, you're right, I don't think the secret might be out that it's OpenAI. Not that many other candidates at this point, although there's certainly a few. And then when you look at the guidance for 25, Q4, 26, very, very positive. So why is NVIDIA down and Broadcom up? Is this the death of NVIDIA? I don't think so. I think what happens oftentimes is that there's a lot of portfolio managers who are going to dress their book heading into October. This is a scenario where maybe they were underweighted into Broadcom. I know Stephanie was, and I'm glad we own it, heavy in NVIDIA. So maybe there's a little bit of a rotation there as you do a little window dressing. So
wait, a little rotation? I mean, NVIDIA's on a 4-week losing streak.
If you're a portfolio manager and you have a ton of NVIDIA and no Broadcom, and now you're going to have to report at the end of the quarter, what you want to make sure is that you've got Broadcom on your books for your quarterly report. So you have a lot of NVIDIA, a little bit of Broadcom, you're going to be rotating. I think there's a large part of that happening.
All right, Jim, you own NVIDIA. Concerned about this 4-week pullback, concerned that maybe, just maybe, that moat that NVIDIA has is shrinking a little bit, or is there enough room for everybody in this AI party?
Yeah, the latter. I mean, this is a total addressable market that's of a big enough size, and NVIDIA is supply constrained, or excuse me, they just can't produce enough chips to satisfy demand. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I do want to quickly say congratulations, Stephanie. Congratulations, Kevin. You guys have talked about Broadcom for quite some time. Stephanie, I remember when you were talking about the dividend yield was like 3.5%. This was a value stock at one point in time, so really well done. But there is definitely enough room in this sandbox for both players. And I see NVIDIA at a 30 times forward multiple, a PEG ratio of 1.4, and people still can't get enough of its chips. And look out if you actually do get any China orders, which are absolutely not priced into the estimates. So I'm comfortable holding NVIDIA here and holding it in size.
Frank, can I just add to that, though? I think that you painted a picture where we've got month-high cash hoard that's been accumulated. And I think part of what was contributing to that story is a lot of investors have been waiting, anecdotally, waiting for the next drop. We're waiting for the next April because we feel like we missed out pre-Liberation Day, right? And I think that what you're seeing is a lot of investors who have been building up cash, waiting for an opportunity to step in and buy something. So to Kevin's point, where we're getting this sell-off in NVIDIA from folks that know they better rotate into Broadcom to say, hey, we were there too, before they have to report in October, you're going to see folks step in starting next week to buy shares of NVIDIA to pile back into that trade because this was the opportunity they were waiting for.
By the way, you're also an NVIDIA shareholder as well. No concerns about a 4-week losing streak. Kevin seems to think it's a rotation. The stock's has a lower 4 PE than Broadcom does. Supposedly it has a moat. China orders should be coming in, even though NVIDIA has to give about 15% of those revenues to the government. It's not concerning at all with all the tailwinds for NVIDIA to see it pull back for 4 straight weeks?
Thank you. I don't want to sound like I'm not concerned at all. I was raising the case this time last year that NVIDIA's biggest issue was the fact that it has 4 customers that make up the lion's share of its revenue. If one of those stopped spending, Microsoft, I think, is estimated to be 23% of that AI revenue number. So if they were to pull back or shift to some other competitor, say a Broadcom, for example, and start to have their relationship for chips go there, that definitely is concerning as an NVIDIA shareholder. But I think the thing that you really can hang your hat on as an NVIDIA investor is the fact that for the last 2 years at least, their accounts receivable has been 2 times their inventories consistently, quarter after quarter. That is the thing that really should matter to you because they can't keep it on the shelves to oversimplify. And that is the thing I think that helps to convince you that that moat is real.
Jimmy, I know you want to go, but isn't the idea that you can use the Broadcom chips, not shares, the Broadcom chips to do some of the things that NVIDIA can do, and while they can't keep it on the shelves, if people continue to try to work with other chips, whether it's a DeepSeek, which didn't really seem to be real, but just other chips and other things, I mean, doesn't that just shrink not only the moat around NVIDIA, but just the aura around it?
Sure, but that's today, right? We're talking about NVIDIA being the 80% dominant company when it comes to the global AI chip demand, right? But we also have to consider Jensen Huang's ability to find the next parade and get out in front of it. He's already talking about their shift to autonomous driving. He's already talking about the fact that AI is going to move from in data centers today onto mobile devices, and that requires a different chipset. So I think at some point we've got to consider at least the leader, the winner here, is likely to keep on winning, more so than they are to cede too much ground to a competitor like a Broadcom. But to the point I think Kevin was making, there's room for everyone here, right? There's not necessarily a finite demand yet for AI.
That was your
chips.
same point, Jim. I know you said something else you wanted to throw in the mix.
Yeah, well, first off, I want to point out he's Mr. Cool. He doesn't get ruffled.
I can see. That's why I asked 2 times. I mean, no concerns whatsoever. 4-week
and you didn't ruffle him. Look, if you want to be in a stock, any stock that gives the returns that NVIDIA gives, or frankly Broadcom, you have to be prepared for downturns. And the stock, albeit 4-week losing streak, is off only 9% from its all-time high. It's up, 55% in a year, 25% year to date. You have to be prepared for drawdowns like this, and this is nothing. I mean, in NVIDIA down 9% from its recent high, that's nothing compared to drawdowns. Remember, in the beginning of the year when DeepSeek came out and the stock was down below $90 a share. I don't think this is anything other than what Kevin pointed out as a rotation. And I didn't hear you say this, Kevin, but it's kind of like a 1 or a few days worth of rotation that we're going to be talking about here before people are done with the move into Broadcom. Broadcom will still continue to do well, but people are going to look at NVIDIA and say this is a buy the dip moment.
And 3 or 4 times a year, NVIDIA falls 20% or more.
Exactly.
So maybe this is one of them.
Broadcom, AVGO hitting a new high in today's session. NVIDIA pulling back. The valuations are disparate as well. I mean, Broadcom is 50 forward. NVIDIA is 39. And what are you getting from NVIDIA versus the message from Broadcom that we got yesterday that the AI pipeline is accelerating, actually picking up speed, not slowing down at all?
For the parts of AI that it's addressing. And it is worth keeping in mind, of course, that Broadcom is more diverse than just the AI chip business. So like 2/3 of it is other stuff, right? It's software, it's infrastructure. But it is interesting how the street seems to be pivoting toward where there's the near-term momentum in terms of Broadcom. And by the way, the 2 stocks are 10% of the S&P 500 at this point together. So it's kind of remarkable that maybe it's going to be kind of an Intel AMD situation back in the PC days, or it's just going to be, they trade off leadership, or at least perceived leadership among investors.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. I'm really quick going to share my thoughts again on GPUs versus custom ASICs, and then I want to cover today's NVIDIA news after that. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, I think there's plenty of room in this market for both NVIDIA and Broadcom to succeed, as there is such strong demand. And I don't view Broadcom's success as NVIDIA's defeat, not at all. Rather, I think there is room for both to succeed. It's important to remember the difference between general-purpose compute and custom ASICs. The simplest way to think about this is by using the analogy of Swiss Army knife and a scalpel. Think of an NVIDIA GPU as a Swiss Army knife. It is very versatile across a wide range of tasks. And at the same time, it is not the most efficient option for certain tasks. On the other hand, think of a custom ASIC like a scalpel. It is not versatile, but it is highly efficient for the specific task it has been optimized for. And notice that there are uses for both. With this context in mind, it's important to understand that cloud service providers are still incentivized to continue offering NVIDIA's general-purpose compute to their customers, as it allows them to service a wide range of customers. I think Google is a great example of a company utilizing both custom ASICs and NVIDIA's latest products. Google uses their own TPUs, which Broadcom helps produce, for their own internal workloads at Google. And at the same time, Google also offers NVIDIA's latest products in their cloud platform. Will Google need more TPUs for their own internal workloads as they experience growing AI demand? Yes. Will Google also continue offering NVIDIA's latest products to their cloud customers? The answer is also yes. And so again, to say that Broadcom's success is NVIDIA's defeat is not an accurate view in my opinion. I don't think this is a zero-sum situation, and I think there is plenty of room for both companies to succeed. Now let's cover today's NVIDIA news. Today, NVIDIA announced that Germany's Jupiter supercomputer is officially online. This is Europe's first exascale supercomputer, and it is powered by NVIDIA's Grace Hopper platform. NVIDIA continues making great progress on delivering sovereign AI around the world, and I'm especially looking forward to NVIDIA's Q3 and Q4 earnings reports, as we should start to see revenue from certain large-scale sovereign AI projects show up either as revenue or revenue guidance on those reports. In addition to sovereign AI, NVIDIA is also making great progress on bringing AI to the world's enterprise IT, which Jensen believes is an opportunity worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And this is in addition to NVIDIA's large hyperscaler clientele. I've heard some people saying today that Broadcom's $10 billion order from a new customer is the beginning of the end for NVIDIA's dominance. I think that is a bad read of the situation. I think NVIDIA will continue to be dominant in the data center for some time. And we also have to consider the other growth opportunities that NVIDIA is just starting to capitalize on. We have sovereign and enterprise AI, as I mentioned. We also have many AI native startups that will fuel even more demand for NVIDIA's products. And we also have other opportunities on the horizon, such as AI robotics. As I said earlier this week, I think AI robotics will eventually be a major revenue source for NVIDIA, and I don't think it's getting enough attention right now. Recently, NVIDIA announced general availability of Jetson AGX Thor. Thor delivers 7.5 times more AI compute, 3.1 times more CPU performance, and double the memory of its predecessor. What's important about Jetson Thor is that it unlocks real-time, on-device, multi-AI inference in demanding applications such as agriculture, surgery assistance, and many more. Before Jetson Thor, this was not feasible in these demanding applications. Now, Jetson Thor will enable robots to perform reasoning on-device at the edge in highly demanding applications without having to be connected to a data center. Think about the implications this has. Robots will now be able to have intelligent interactions with the real world in ways that were previously unfeasible. I've briefly mentioned AI agents multiple times over the past couple months or so, and I think we will see a surge in compute demand from agentic AI that extends well into 2026. But what I want to notice here is that Jetson Thor will enable the next generation of physical AI agents. Instead of having an AI agent perform digital tasks, we're now talking about physical AI agents performing physical tasks in the real world. There are already over 2 million developers building on the NVIDIA robotics stack. And I want you to notice that NVIDIA is establishing themselves as the underlying infrastructure of physical AI. Not only is NVIDIA selling the hardware in the data center where the AI models are trained, but they're also selling the hardware that will allow the AI models to interact with the physical world outside of the data center. While this is a relatively small portion of NVIDIA's business right now, I think AI robotics will eventually become a sizable amount of revenue in the future. Looking at this slide from NVIDIA's investor presentation, NVIDIA believes the next wave of AI is physical AI. They expect the world to be filled with 100 million self-driving cars, billions of robots, as well as millions of factories and hundreds of thousands of warehouses implementing AI robotics. All of that to say that this is a massive long-term growth opportunity for NVIDIA. We can see that there are 3 phases to producing physical AI. First, the models are trained on NVIDIA DGX. Second, the models are taught, tested, and their skills validated through NVIDIA Omniverse. And third, the AI software is run on the robot through NVIDIA AGX. This third phase is where NVIDIA's Jetson AGX Thor comes into play. Also, as a brief side note, notice that enterprises license NVIDIA Omniverse at $4,500 per GPU per year. That is solid recurring revenue. All of this to say that NVIDIA is establishing themselves as the underlying infrastructure of physical AI, and AI robotics represents a massive long-term growth opportunity that is not getting anywhere near as much attention as it should be getting right now. AI demand continues to grow. New use cases continue to be developed. I think we're about to see a surge in demand from agentic AI. I do not view customer concentration as a major problem for NVIDIA right now, as I've discussed in previous videos. I also don't think we are anywhere near a bubble bursting type of event, as I've also discussed in previous videos. NVIDIA has massive growth opportunities in front of it that are in addition to its data center business, such as AI robotics, which I think will eventually be a major revenue source for NVIDIA. And we have a very clear data center product roadmap for the next 3 years. Blackwell Ultra is ramping quickly right now. Rubin is on track to launch in 2026. Then we're expecting Rubin Ultra in 2027, and then Feynman in 2028. And Jensen believes there will be $3 to $4 trillion of global AI factory build-out between now and 2030, which means he expects growing AI demand and an expanding total addressable market underpinning all of this. I seriously think we are still in the early days of AI, and I genuinely think NVIDIA is going to be worth substantially more in future years than it is today, regardless of what happens in the short term. At least that's my view of the situation. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.